This is a place where the infinite is possible. And you've just happened to find yourself here. This is not a coincidence. You have been called here to help yourself. If you pay close attention, you can empower yourself to be your own healer, to be your own person, to be your own source of happiness. And that's where it all begins. This is the BC Podcast. Hello. Just want to say a quick thank you to everyone who's been supporting me through these podcasts and the new friends I'm making and all the feedback that I've been getting. It really helps and I appreciate you. My guest today is a man by the name of Craig and he is somewhat of a board sports expert and he is ranked top 8 in the world for downhill skateboarding. He placed second at Masters World Wakeboard Championships and he's won the Open Men's at Nationals. He's done over 1,000 hours teaching people how to wakeboard, and he says the easiest ones to teach are grandmas. Craig has had an interesting path, and now he's become a role model for young people. And I had a lot of fun chatting with him, getting to know him more, and learning what makes him tick, really, and how he thinks. And he shares a lot of his own insights and wisdom on this podcast, and I hope you enjoy. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the BC Podcast. My name is Beck, and I have a very interesting guest for you today. I'm sitting here with a Mr. Craig Bond. Hello, Craig.
Hello, everybody.
Now, I was talking to a friend, and I was like, how the hell where did Craig come from? He just kind of popped up. And because we have like our little tribe of friends and we're all kind of into the same stuff, but we're all bringing something different. And I was like, where the hell did Craig come from? And so I just met you at Trans Dance. And it was like you've always been here.
Maybe. No, I definitely sort of arrived into a collection of friends and could definitely feel there was a little crew, not a crew, but a collection of people on sort of similar path. And I suppose, trance dance was one of the first things that got me, A, connected to crew, but B, sort of started to consolidate some stuff that maybe I'd been looking for or sort of seeking for a while. But I recognize that I'm, just appeared out of the nowhere, but it's weird. I feel super at home. Just kind of clicked in. So basically, I started, we'll talk about dance. We'll talk about trance dance.
Yeah.
That sort of happened early on, in last little journey over the sort of maybe a year or two, and I just saw it on Facebook, an advert, and I was like, that looks like an interesting thing to do. And I hadn't been dancing at all at the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, I learned to dance at Trans Dance. Before that, I just would be the guy that never danced. It'd be like, out at a bar or something with the crew and other people would be having a groove and I'd be like, probably like to do that, but not.
Wow.
And it was at a time where I was sort of looking into different ways of I suppose you would say exploring your own self or consciousness or whatever language you want to put around it. But it came from yoga initially. So I've always been really into board sports. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But I was really into wakeboarding, still am. And there was a hot yoga class down the road from my house. And I was like, that would probably be a pretty good thing to, get flexible, improve your wakeboarding, that sort of deal. And so I started going to that and just got heaps out of it straight away, and just having some like pretty profound experiences in Shavasana. Like, you using the practice of yoga to bring yourself into a place where you're ready to come to full rest. And just being like, whoa, what was that? Finding stillness after like a pretty long time of having, a pretty busy mind, a whole bunch of conflicts, a whole bunch of things that didn't seem to make any sense or seem to have no ability to think about resolving them, and then just finding that stillness and that peace. And I was like, whoa, like this is a thing that I haven't experienced before to an extent. So I sort of started looking at, what else can you do? And then sort of seeing trance dance and going, okay, well that kind of makes a bit of sense. It's the same as yoga. Like you're just putting on a mask, so you're changing your perception of space and time, and you dance around to some crazy music. And it was super good, and just experiencing freedom. So
to go from, yoga and that being a new thing to going into trance, which is like pretty out there, how did you take that?
I suppose I've always been a bit reckless.
Yeah.
Again, like linking in with pursuing different board riding activities. But I grew up skateboarding. I probably started skateboarding since I was 11 or 12, and it's something that I've always done. It comes and goes in phases depending on what else I've got going on in my life. But when you grow up with that mindset, it influences your worldview for sure. There's so much of
anything goes.
Yeah, kind of like a how do you language it? Maybe like a bit of a thrill in destruction, or a thrill in like, yeah, let's just see what happens. Like, you wouldn't do that. Yeah, I would watch. So that's, and it's funny because you can look at aspects of my personality and be like, yeah, that's probably because of skateboarding.
Okay. Well, we can tell people a bit about what trance is. You're going there blindfolded.
Yeah. So basically, if you don't know what trance dance is, so it's you kind of show up, you do a little setting of intention first, kind of hang, and then basically it's kind of a couple of hours of all different kinds of music. It's not repetitive. It's a sound journey, I suppose, and you dance blindfolded, just according to however you feel you want to move. And so
and everyone's blindfolded, so
yeah,
you can just express freely.
Yeah, there's a couple of spotters in the room, kind of making sure you don't bash into each other. Props to those guys, because you can get a bit boisterous. So yeah, you kind of just dance whatever you feel. So it can be catharsis, it can be joy, it can be freedom, it can be lack of freedom, it can be the song is terrible and you dance that. It's funny because it's taught me so much, just dancing in general, but yeah, having that space to kind of explore some of these concepts, like dancing, any kind of feeling. We associate dancing so much with happiness. Like, oh, I want a new car, so I danced around. Like, it's always just an expression of being happy, but I feel like you can translate just about any emotion into dance as a way of expressing, or is it in a way of releasing. Like for me, I mean, maybe some people don't like to dance. I'm not sure who those people are, because I feel like everyone inside, when they see someone really good at dancing, watches that person, is like, dang, I'd like to do that.
It's just so freeing.
Yeah. Well, why do we go to the ballet? Why is contemporary dance a thing that people buy tickets for and watch two people just jump around on a stage? That's a weird thing, There's so much weird things in the world, but that's weird, You just went to a show and watched two people just jump around on a stage for an hour and a half and loved it. I think because we identify with that, You know, maybe even if we don't have the skills or we don't allow ourselves to kind of go there, we still take something from the freedom that that person embodies in front of us. So trance dance is maybe a space to do that. You can go and be a ballet dancer if you want to.
Yeah.
I go there sometimes. I can I can imagine that, maybe without the tutu, but so it's a space to explore just what feelings move like.
Yeah.
For me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. When I went, I was so not prepared for what feelings were going to emerge.
Oh, yeah. Fully.
I was like, oh yeah, I'll just go to this thing, put the blindfold on, and I'll just dance around.
Fully. Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I won't feel self-conscious, but still felt self-conscious.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because
then,
it's
all this other shit came out.
fully. Because it's all this stuff that lives inside of us.
Mm.
You know, when you dance, trance or especially not, I've been, doing a lot of ecstatic dance and stuff lately as well. That's real profound because when you have other people witnessing you, that's a different headspace. So I find ecstatic dance and trance dance two different things, but both pretty useful in terms of almost, I suppose, a spiritual practice. If you don't want to use the word spiritual, just use the word like permission or permissible practice to check in with where you're at. Like we all want to experience some level of freedom in our life.
Self-exploration.
Yeah, expression, whatever you want to call it. So when you dance, you get to check in immediately with where you're at with yourself. You're like, oh gosh, am I really insecure today? Am I really caring what people think? And also just like, it's such a beautiful opportunity to really listen to your body.
Yeah.
That's been a really big deal for me lately as well. Just listening to what our body has to say.
It talks so much.
Oh, but we're so good at not listening.
Yeah.
We're good at listening on the basics. Like, I'm pretty hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Your body's like, oi, food. You're like, okay. You put some food in your face, or you need to go to the bathroom, and but it's like a relationship. The more time you spend with someone, getting to know them, the more subtle, your ability to kind of understand their subtleties come up.
That's a very good way of explaining that. Yeah.
So when you're spending some time listening to your body, you can get a really, really deep understanding of how it wants to move even.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm still developing it for sure, but trance dance and any kind of dance is like a really, like, even if you want to look at it on just a purely physical point of view, like having time to just stand in your body and be like, how does my body want to move? Does my left shoulder want to like go up and down? I want to kind of move my head to the right, or my hips kind of tight, and then just doing that. Like, if that's all there is, you just spend an hour like seeing how your body actually feels, because your body will tell you, and I think that's what I liked about dance as much as yoga. I really enjoy yoga, but yoga's almost like, that's like technique. So you're making your body go into these positions because they're good for you. You get told, okay, like, take, I don't know, child's pose, and maybe your hips hurt a little bit and your knees kind of sting, but you're taking child's pose anyway because that's the flow. So in a way, that's kind of, you are doing something because it benefits your body, but your body's giving you some feedback, and that's where you walk that balance of not pushing too hard, or don't put your knees too far apart, or don't lean into the stretch as much. But yoga is like a structure. Dance is like just pure listening.
Do you feel like the yoga prepared you to start to listen in
Yeah,
trance?
for sure.
Yeah,
they go hand in hand for sure. Like what we were talking about maybe before, like one being a craft and one being an art. Like, I think if you learn both, you can benefit both ways.
Do you want to repeat for people?
Yeah, sure.
Oh,
So
okay.
we were just before we got to recording, I was just talking about just some sort of insights I've been thinking about lately in regards to, so you're going to develop a skill, especially a creative practice. There's the craft aspect of it, and then there's the art aspect of it, or the artistic aspect of it. So say, for example, you're going to be, we'll use pottery. I've been really getting into pottery lately as well. so there's elements of pottery that require you to learn a craft. I can't just grab a lump of clay and chuck it on a wheel and start to spin it and make a pot. It just goes everywhere. It's bad. Tried it. So there's aspects as a craft. You know, you have to have your hands in a certain position. You have to honor a certain process. So that's learning the craft of pottery. Now, if I want to create my own art with pottery, I learn the craft first, and then I bring my own artistic flair to it. And that's when I can get a bit crazy with it and bend the pot this way or that way, or wreck it and tell everybody I meant to do it on purpose. But, you know, so for me, like, kind of that combination between the two, maybe yoga is the craft and dance is the art. Because then, and it's interesting, I'm going to learn how to dance better as well. Like, I actually want to, fellas, it's okay to dance, dudes. Yeah, dudes especially. Dudes, I just see dudes super stuck. They don't let themselves dance. But anyway, yeah, I want to learn to dance better. Like, I want to get some more training on how to move. So it's kind of like you learn the rules and then you can break them.
Yeah.
But you're breaking them properly or bending them properly. So finding that
and you make them yours.
Yeah, fully. But to bring it back to the whole trance dance kind of trip, just the developing the relationship with your body and starting to really listen. Because if you really listen, and I've been trying to do it on a daily basis. Like, I'll be at work. I work cutting trees away from the power lines, and so I'm just working with, like, you know, regular sort of tradie dudes, and I'll just be like, everybody on smoko, like, you know, smoking darts and
shoving food in their gob,
drinking chocolate milk and stuff. And I'll be sat on the ground and just be like in some weird position. And they're all super used to it. That and picking up feathers. They all know I pick up feathers.
Yes.
Some yeah, it's wicked. Some dudes even give me feathers. But yeah, I'll just be sort of sitting on the ground, and that's me trying to listen to my body, because I'm making it do stuff all day long that I want it to do. And I'm a bit bad for that. And that, again, that comes from being a skateboarder, almost treating my body like a utensil and being like, you will do this.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are guilty of that.
Heaps. And sometimes we need to, you know, like, I mean, I just got a big tattoo on the whole back of my leg the other day. So there's like 5 hours of me sitting there and just being like, body, you're doing great. You got this. Like, it sucks, but tough it out, you know. And sometimes we need to do that with our body. But really starting to listen, like, okay, so you've done something hectic. You've been sat at the office desk for 8 hours, and your body will talk to you, and we're real good at ignoring. We're just like, nah, get back, finish that assignment or that portfolio or whatever. But your body's like, oh, you just like take 2 minutes to just go outside and grab the veranda
pole
underneath, and just hang, like, just shake it out, you know, just for 10 seconds. Just hanging. Do the opposite of what gravity's doing.
Hanging's good.
Oh, hanging's so good. Yeah. And it's funny, it's like when you start drinking water, you know, when you go through, I'm shocking for it, but if you don't drink enough water and then you start drinking water really regularly, and then if you don't drink water, you're like, oh gosh, I'm so thirsty. Yeah. Because it's like your body's like, oh yeah, give me that. So when you start listening to your body, and then if you stop again, your body will tell you fully.
Like, hey man, we've changed up. We need to move more.
Like, hey bro, you haven't hung off of anything in 2 days. I'm feeling it. You know, you've been going hard at work, lifting a lot of heavy stuff. Just chill out there and maybe stretch this way. And so, yeah, dance has been super good for me to try to develop that relationship in the moment, like consciously taking some time to just check in.
And you said it was a dance trip. So speaking of trip, we I found with the blindfold, you do end up like in some kind of meditative visualization, like off into other places.
Oh, absolutely. Because when you're blindfolded, this is quoting Sahalia, you're the best.
Love you, girl.
I'm allowed to say that, right?
Yeah.
Just a little shout out.
Yeah.
It changes your relationship to space and time. So we rely so much on our visual input to judge what's going on. So when you take that away for an extended period of time, and especially if you do other stuff as well, like it's linked to the breath, so you inform your body of what's happening by breathing, and sometimes you can kind of enter into different spaces alone. I'm sure people know about that, but combining the breath with the lack of visual input can definitely put you into, and then add like physical movement, tire yourself out, that kind of thing, like that will definitely change your, like, alter your consciousness. Actually, really interesting, I heard a thing the other day that they were saying that tribes around the world, tribes that didn't have access to like mind-altering plants, where there wasn't endogenous plants growing, that would alter your consciousness, have much more developed and complex music and dance. So because they can't, intake plants because we all want to, like, it's in our nature to alter our consciousness. We do it every day.
Yeah.
Coffee, flipping sugar, alcohol,
cigarettes.
Yeah, all of it, and all that stuff's accepted. It's a trip. When you learn about the why of why we have those readily available substances to alter our consciousness, that's a wild thing. But but talking about these tribes, like, where there wasn't access to all these amazing plants to alter your consciousness, they would develop these really complex rhythms and dance maneuvers that basically push them into a state of altered space and time. So I suppose trance dance touches on that, and that's sort of a journey of self-inquiry. We change our perspective so that we might be able to maybe know ourselves a little bit differently, or know ourselves from a different point of view. Yeah, so that was a thing for me, and then from there, kind of just met crew and hung out.
And speaking of Salia, she's the one who runs trance dance in Perth. So if you ever come, you'll meet her. Yeah,
she's a boss. She's amazing.
She's phenomenal.
Yeah. I'm sure she'll be on the podcast one day. It's meant to be.
I hope so. I've been asking her.
Yeah, hit her up, hey.
So rewinding back, where did your journey into self-inquiry begin?
Just get this big giant can and it's got worms written on it, and just get the can opener and hook right in. Let's do that. So I guess maybe we'll just go into a little bit of backstory so that people know
that's where it began.
Yeah, what I'm about, where I'm from. So I was born in Esperance. Grew up on a farm, and was basically since I can remember raised in church. My mum's been a really solid Christian since I can remember, and that's been a really good thing for me to have someone, I suppose, model consistency and love, and that was a powerful thing. I'm really blessed to have the mum that I have. And my dad as well. Dad became Christian maybe when I was like 10. So I was always raised in church. And
so your dad didn't go with you guys until later?
Oh no, yeah. So mum was always a Christian. She would go to church and stuff, and dad would be like, "Yeah, no, I'm not going, not going." And then became Christian. Like, I suppose when I was 10 or something. Kind of was in church one day and I was like, "Hang on a sec, this God thing's real." And then became Christian, which is cool. And so because of that, I was always raised going to church on Sunday, but inherently in me, since I was a little kid, I've always had kind of a want to be connected to something bigger than me. I couldn't tell you why. Some people are just like born artists or born, whatever. But for me, that's one of the things that's been inherent in me. That's like just my desire to know something more meaningful than myself. This kind of idea that, like, surely there's more than this.
Yeah,
surely,
I've felt that as well. Was growing up and Just wondering what it's all about. Why is the sky blue? Why is the moon there?
Fully.
Why?
Yeah. Totally get it. And why do we have that? You know, I think that's in everybody. Maybe. I'm not sure. I don't know everybody, but
I think a lot.
It's pretty common.
Yeah.
You know, like. And so, grew up in church. All the way through high school, basically lived to the absolute best of my ability. A model Christian life. Put that in air quotes. Had heaps of good friends, though. It's funny. I think, in speaking about church and Christianity and that sort of thing, it's pretty crazy territory to go into because it's a big and complex thing. You know, I know a lot of people got wounding around it, real serious opinions on it, and probably a whole bunch of those are justified, of course. Even from when I was really young, I used to listen to this Christian rap band called DC Talk. And that was like the first cassette I ever got. And on there, they had this quote, and it was like, the biggest cause of atheism in the world today is Christians.
Wow.
Who acknowledge it with their lips and then walk out the door and deny it by their lifestyle.
Wow.
And that's always stuck with me. Like, I can remember that quote off the top of my head. And maybe from being young,
They were edgy then, weren't they?
Oh, so edgy.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. They'd sing about sex and stuff. And I was like, oh, Lord. What's a sex? Like, just this teenage kid. My mom wouldn't let me listen to that song, actually. I don't think so. Thanks, Mom. They were edgy, but that quote has always been in my awareness. And so there would be times where I would kind of experience maybe a bit of like hypocrisy or the feeling of like things aren't really lining up, like when people are doing one thing and then saying another, and it would really irritate me. Mm-hmm. And I think
now looking at that, it's like that's just humans,
of course,
but the whole religion thing, it's like you're not supposed to behave that way. You're supposed to behave in this model way. You're supposed to be a perfect human. You're not supposed to have all these flaws.
Yeah, fully. It's funny because church isn't all about that. They talk about grace and there's room for imperfections, but it's kind of like try your very best to not mess up. Mm-hmm. And when you do mess up, you kind of did a bad thing and can try to get over that and then try not to do it again.
Sounds like you went to a pretty good church then.
Yeah, I had a good church. I had good youth pastors and stuff. And but yeah, so just moments of like things not always lining up and being like, doesn't make much sense to me. And also one of the things that we'll do a little bit of a timeline. So all through high school, like super, live the ultimate Christian dude. Like, would never swear in high school. I've only just really started using the occasional swear word now. Yeah, it's kind of cathartic.
You're allowed to swear on this podcast, by the way.
Kids might be listening.
I'm swearing.
No, the occasional one might pop out. But there was like one day in high school where there was like $80 on the table because they'd never heard me say a swear word. And they're like, wait, say it, come on, for $80. I was like, no, fully. Like, didn't turn down $80 to not say the F word. So that committed to being Christian, in air quotes. And then finished high school, worked as a note taker for hearing impaired guy and was doing...
What's that?
So basically there's a guy that was like a couple years younger than me, and he had hearing aids. But I suppose because of the nature of his ears, he used to lip read a lot. And so in class, if the teacher was writing on the blackboard and talking at the same time, he couldn't get what was coming across. So I'd just hang out and take notes. It was a sweet job. Oh, wow. Because the school was really close to the beach. Nice. So he would have like 2 periods of maths, and then he'd have maybe 2 periods of phys ed. So I'd have like a couple of hours off. So I'd just do maths and then go to the beach and surf for a couple of hours, and then come back and maybe do English or something. It was sweet. I'd rock back up at school and he'd be annoyed at me because he'd surf as well. I'd just be like wet and sandy. But like, dude, it's pumping. He'd be like, oh, you suck, Craig. I want to go to the beach. But yeah, from that I got into working more so with young guys with behavioural difficulties. So instead of going to the beach and going surfing, I would take the time to just hang out with, just mostly your 8 and 9, 13, 14-year-old boys. And I was only 18 at the time, 17, just finished high school. But the deputy principal actually approached me while I was still in school and was like, what are you doing in your year after school? I was like, I don't know, just going to probably bum around and surf. He's like, I've got a job for you if you want. And so he got me plugged into that, to the note-taking job. But then from there started, working with young dudes and just hanging out. Because a lot of behavioural stuff just comes from learning. You know, especially if you're a dude, you don't want to flip and look like an idiot in front of your mates if you can't figure out the maths. And so what do? You just play up. So if you can help them to understand maths, this is super important.
Oh, so you've been a teacher since then, basically.
Yeah, well, I was doing more classroom hours, more dot hours than a teacher. I was doing like full 40 hours a week by the end of it. Because I phased out on the note taking because the dude had graduated and I stayed on in the school, and I was still really into church, and then decided that I would go to Bible college. Felt called. And
is this still in Esperance?
Yeah, still in Esperance. Did a year of Bible college. A Cert 4 in youth ministry. And I don't remember very much of it at all. To be truthful, trying to live in truth at the moment.
Yeah.
So, but I'm sure there's a whole bunch of stuff in there. It's, stored in my subconscious that I act out of anyway, probably for good and for bad. But yeah, that's a bit of my background. I went traveling for a year when I was 20.
Where'd you go?
I actually got a job working for a company called Motivational Media Assemblies. I was basically in a van with like a heap of crazy audio and visual gear, traveling to a different school every day, doing a presentation on making choices. But we traveled everywhere from like Ceduna, say Western South Australia, right through to past Cairns. Like I drove, I don't know, we averaged like 2,500 Ks week in, week out for the whole year. It was sick.
Was that related to the church stuff?
Kinda. The dude that owned the business was a Christian, but it wasn't a directly Christian thing. It was more like the presentation was just about like making choices, and it was just a resource to schools. But one of the things that was really probably pretty beneficial, it's funny because there's pivotal moments in my life that have really affected who I've become because I spent a bunch of time alone. Like when I was 6, Mum and Dad got me a little PV50 motorbike, and I used to just ride that everywhere on the farm. I'd just cruise off down the back, and it was like, be home by sunset, don't crash. And
the good old days.
Yeah, it's flipping sweet. But, spending a bunch of time there by myself. And then when I was 13, I had to go to boarding school for a year.
Oh, wow.
So I've gone from a school, I grew up in the bush on a farm. There was 2 other people in my year from grade 1 to 7. And the most the school got to, like all the grades from years 1 to 7 was 40 kids.
Whoa.
So pretty small little bush school. And so I've gone from that in grade 7 into Esperance Senior High School, which is like over 1,000 kids. And so little Craig, who's just like lived in the bush and just been riding around his peewee. But that year was really formative for me because that's when I really dug into skateboarding.
That was when you were doing these motivational...
Oh no, this is early days.
Oh,
yeah. So I'm just little timelining like individual moments of like solo time. Solo time's always been pretty important to me. But see, when I was 6, that was a key moment. I can look back and go, yeah, you spent a bunch of time by yourself. When I was 13, that year in high school, I've just been at boarding school, not having any friends, like just having a rough time and just going skateboarding like as much as I could, hiding out, in the rec shed. And then when I was 20, going on the road for the whole year and working this job. But the guy that I was traveling with, we travel in a partnership. The guy that I was traveling with was a pretty different dude than me. I'm like an activities dude. I just love doing things. And he was just the opposite. He would be happy to chill in our accommodation, play his guitar, which is sweet, but it meant that I had to do everything by myself. So for the whole year, I'd get to a new town and be like, what's to explore? And he'd be like, I'm chilling here. And I'd be like, cool, I'm going exploring by myself. And I would just go on like hikes and go to the beach and go skate and spent heaps of time by myself.
Yeah, I love to travel on my own. Yeah, it's really
even that. That's a almost like a practice that I'd accidentally cultivated. So did that on the road for a year by myself, and then, well, not by myself, but trekking around, and then came home back to Esperance. But while I was away on the road, my parents actually moved away from Esperance as well. So I was living in Esperance kind of by myself again for a while. My sister and stuff were there, but then I decided to move up to Mandurah when I was maybe 22, 23. To be, I mean, at the time I was like super into church and stuff as well. There was an opportunity that came up for me to volunteer in a youth pastor role in a church that was being opened up in Mandurah, and I felt called to do that. It also helped that the girl that I was really into lived in Mandurah. We're still together now. We've been together for just over 10 years. It's our 10-year anniversary in March.
Wow.
Shout out Taz, you flipping babe.
Congratulations.
You're a legend. But yeah, so there's a bunch of, things that were compelling me to move up. And when I moved up to the city, I just got super burnt out real quick. It was like the combination of a whole bunch of little kind of wriggles that I've been feeling towards the tail end of my time in the church. And I stepped into this volunteer role, and nothing to speak against any of the people that made this position available, because they're beautiful people and amazing intention, but I just got used up real quick. It was like, be here at this time, do this, do that. And it was funny because I disconnected from my community in Esperance, I had the space to walk away. Like, it couldn't have happened in Esperance because there would have been like too many pastors
chased you up.
Yeah, would have been gotten hit up and stuff. But because I'd moved up here and I didn't have like super deep relationship with these people in this church, I kind of just faded out. And when I faded out, I guess I was kind of burned, like kind of pretty bummed out by some stuff that had happened previous to me moving to Mandurah, and also just feeling used up. Like my heart really being in it, like been trying to serve God.
So were you a little bit confused, or were you questioning religion itself, or?
Kind of just bummed on the whole idea. There was like a significant amount of years, so I probably stopped like being any kind of connected to the church when I was maybe 24, 23, 24. I burnt out pretty quick when I moved up to Mandurah. And there was like a significant amount of years. And it's funny because I didn't do the classic like run away from church. I had heaps of mates that did, like just bail on church and just go the absolute opposite way, like partying every night, girls, the whole deal. Like I had an amazing girlfriend. I had a bunch of crew around me that were into skateboarding. And so I just did that, just skated heaps and surfed a bit and stuff, and kind of just still lived a super clean life. Didn't drink, didn't swear, because a lot of the dudes that I was hanging out with skateboarding, I was still really aware that I was a role model. And so in being a role model, like I still felt that, even though it wasn't like framed in a Christian kind of way, it was still like dude, like you can do it, don't like make good decisions, like come and hang out. But at the same time, I've got a really beautiful group of like dudes that are a bit younger than me, but I've spent a bunch of time with. I'm really blessed to still have those dudes in my life, because now I've got the privilege of seeing them become like young men. It's a trip. There's even this one little dude, Quino. Shout out Quino, you're a boss. I've known Quino since he was born, because he was like the youngest of these 4 brothers. But yeah, there's dudes I've known for like 10 years. And so when they were like, 14, 15, now they're becoming men, and I can share with them a different sort of space. So it's always been in me to be that role model. And so for such a long time, I still lived it wasn't like, I went off the deep end and just lost it.
Well, where did that come from? Was your dad that way? Was your mum that way?
Whoa. That's a can of worms inside a can of worms.
Do you want to talk about that or not really?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, go on. Probably a big part of that is probably dad's a farmer, classical Aussie Australian man, and in some ways, I guess probably just a bit distant. And being young, I felt that distance. Just like kind of wanting a dad to do dad stuff. And he did sometimes. We did heaps of cool stuff. But feeling that distance and just certain moments, again, of me knowing what that felt like and then wanting to not be that. Maybe almost like that's kind of a bummy feeling. Let's move in the opposite direction of that. And so in some ways, like spending time with these dudes is almost like an outworking of
giving them what you didn't get.
Yeah, maybe like stepping in a direction that I wanted to go.
Okay.
Some of it's from that, and then some of it's like that innate. Why are you a certain way? Why it's just, you're born with it. Your soul's expression is, for me to.
Do you think part of that might be church influence as well, seeing as they were putting you in these roles to serve others?
Yeah, maybe, but it always really fulfilled me. I think that's why I kept at it for so long, because it wasn't all bad. I could see that I was actually having a positive impact on people's lives, and that was really rewarding. And yeah, it is. It's a beautiful thing to. I've always, because. Okay, so we'll talk about that. That kind of ties nicely into like the idea of like being accidentally initiated almost. In church, I had a group of really crazy friends, and that tied in perfectly with me being a skateboarder, being like just a little rat bag, having fun, running around, and so we'd always like there's a bunch of dudes that were always just up for like some serious shenanigans. I can share a little story if you want to like set the tone. So I was like 15. I must have been 15 because I didn't have my license yet. But I was sitting in maths class one day, and we used to go out to the sand dunes near Esperance. And
not maths. Maths.
Maths. What?
Did you say maths or maths?
I was sitting in maths.
Maths,
yeah,
okay.
math class, not maths. Not Catholic.
Oh, yeah.
Close. Sitting in math class one day, and we used to go out to the sand dunes. And the sand dunes were right next to the rubbish dump, and we'd sneak into the back of the rubbish dump and steal, like super Christian, hey, steal some 44-gallon drums and some pallets, and then we'd take a jerry can and we'd put like 3 or 4 inches of petrol in the bottom of the 44-gallon drum, and then put it on the pile of burning pallets. And then blow it up, like makes full mushroom clouds, like
wow,
pretty mental. So I'm sat in maths class one day, and then further out along the beach from the sand dunes is these big granite caves, and I'm sitting in maths, and I was like, just had this idea just drop into my head, and I was like, wonder what happens if you blow up a 44-gallon drum in the cave. So I called up my mate Bungers, I've spent heaps of time with. He really blessed me.
Bungers.
And I was like, oi, Bungers, I got this idea. We should blow a 44-gallon drum up in the cave. And he's like, yeah, we should. So he was maybe, I don't know how much older, like he maybe 18 or something. So old enough to know better, but still young enough to be plenty loose and up for the challenge. So it was just me and him. We snuck in, we got 2 44-gallon drums, and we drove out, like it's 20 k's along the beach, drove out to this cave, and missioned it in there. And we got the fire going inside the cave. The cave's probably like 30 or 40 meters deep. Just this big limestone cave. So bad. Looking at it now, I'm like, you're an idiot, eh? But the things you do when you're young and silly. And so we got the fire going, put the 44-gallon drum on, and ran outside the cave and hid behind this little sand dune right at the mouth of the cave. And when they get real hot, you can hear them go pinging first. They go ding, 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 and then boom. And then it's like apocalypse. It's amazing. So we could hear it ting, and then it just goes whomp.
Oh.
And it just, you could feel the cave just breathe out, and you could hear this note just go across the countryside. It was the loudest bass note I've ever heard in my life. It was mental. And we had still one more drum left. And so Bungus is like, let's go and sit in the cave with it.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, heck yeah, let's do that. So we did.
Oh my God.
So we ran back in, put the next drum on, and we're hiding 15, 20 meters away. I'm hiding behind a rock and Bungus is hiding behind me. And I'm just peeking my nose over the top of the rock so we can see what's going on. And we're sitting there and they swell up like a hot dog. They get really round in the top and the bottom. And kids, don't do this at home.
Do not.
Do not. This is 18 plus podcast. No, I'm joking.
Rated
There's
R.
no caves around anyway. But yeah, they swell up. And so we're sitting there. It's just swelled up and then just gone whomp in the cave. And the flames had nowhere to go. And they went all the way across the roof of the cave, like above our heads.
Mm-hmm.
And it was insane. It was like being inside someone's lungs because the expansion of the gas basically shifted all the air in the cave out about 2 meters and then back in about 2 meters as it tried to find a balance. So it was like this series of like rapid breaths, like as the cave breathed in and out. It was one of the most mental experiences of my life. It was wild.
Well, I was thinking before you were telling that, I was like, did the oxygen get sucked out of there?
Well, we didn't know. We just knew that the cave didn't fall down the first time. Right, we didn't blow the cave up the first time, so the cave was obviously good. So we wouldn't sit in there next time. It was insane. It was so good. Don't do it at home though. But literally, we're driving back into town, just me and Bungus, and just completely wordless, nothing to say. And then every 5 or 10 minutes, one of us would just be like, "Dude, that was pretty wild, eh?" And the other dude would be like, "Yep." And that would be the whole conversation. So that's the kind of... And then we'd go to church on Sunday morning. So we're doing this on a Friday night and then go to church and praise God on a Sunday morning. It was amazing. Our youth group had a reputation for being the most badass youth group. Crew would come down from Perth from other churches and stuff and we would take them and go and blow drums up in the sand dunes. And they'd be like, you guys are mental. And we loved it. We just owned it so hard. But it was built around this culture of just going real hard, just get gnarly, be real gnarly. How much can you not be afraid? I remember just jumping off cliffs and stuff into the ocean and just absolutely not wanting to do it. Being absolutely terrified. It's so high. It's literally I can't even see the water. Don't want to die. And then it's well, you got to do it. You just make yourself do it. So that's the culture I grew up in. And so super, super good people. And I suppose, that really taught me in some ways that maybe filled a few little gaps in the reckless Craig, because I don't think I would have survived in just a neat, clean, straight-laced church environment. So that there was some real fun to be had and some real genuinely beautiful times, and almost in a way I suppose accidentally initiated me in some aspects, not in the full sense of what you would traditionally regard as an initiation, but learning how to all right, man up, let's go for it, let's do it.
Seems a lot of boys go through that gotta almost die phase.
Yeah, kinda.
Destroy things and see what your limits are.
Yeah, and there's not enough of a container to do that, I don't think, at the moment. I feel so sad for these young dudes that never had this opportunity, this container to do this crazy stuff, pretty safely though. I was always around dudes that, still did some dumb stuff. I broke my back when I was 18. That was gnarly. We can talk about that if you want, but it's just another story. But yeah, just a real cool container for, just testing yourself as a young dude growing up. So yeah, that was what I was sort of surrounded by. And in some ways I'm really blessed to have had that. Not a lot of people have had that growing up, and I have, and super grateful. So I suppose some of those concepts are still in me now. There's this real cool skateboarder that I love. His name's Lance Mountain, and he says that skateboarding keeps you immature. Not irresponsible, just immature. So it's this aspect of you that never properly grows up, because when you skate, when you're reckless, when you're just living in this let's just go for it. kind of lifestyle, you see the value in having fun, which is also neglected. Like, we're here to have a bunch of fun, and I see people kind of stuck in these lives that they never have any fun, and it makes me sad because I still like to have heaps of fun.
So then you fast forward to, moving to Mandurah and not being in the church.
Yeah, that's what we're speaking about. Sweet. I got a little bit lost there.
That's all right.
Got distracted by blowing things up. It happens.
That's a good story.
Yeah, so just didn't like do the classical walk away and do the bad thing, but just cruised, and then didn't even want to talk about the idea of God for so long, because there was other stuff that that's like those crazy stories of the good side. There's other stuff that's not super dark or super scary, but just, I suppose, woundings, little mental injuries, little soul hurts that I had to process, and because of those, didn't want to talk about anything to do with God or spirit or anything. Just wanted, my girlfriend would ask me about it. I'd be like, no, not talking about it. So
did she leave when you left as well?
Yeah, she kind of faded out with me.
Yeah.
She's still, with similar perspectives on the world and on there being something more, But she sort of stayed with me, and we just did heaps of cool trips, heaps of skate trips over east, and she would come along and drive the car for all the boys while we rode skateboards down big hills and stuff. And yeah, man, she's a sweetie. She actually she got really into skateboarding as well at one point.
Awesome.
She was the first ever sponsored female downhill skateboarder in Australia. She's been over 100 k's an hour on a skateboard.
Whoa.
Yeah, and then she broke her arm at a World Cup race, and that kind of spun her out and realised what you can do to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Whereas I'd always realised it and just been like, screw it and do it anyway. Whereas Taz kind of, I think that was whoa, hang on a second, this is actually a crazy pursuit, and so she backed off a little bit.
Yeah, I had a similar thing when I fell off my motorbike. I was like, oh yeah, I can actually hurt myself. You forget.
Yeah.
Yeah. But boys don't really care for whatever reason.
Well, yeah, we just do it and then we forget. We just go and do it again. That's what makes us fun, though. I don't know. It's like boys wouldn't be boys if they didn't hurt themselves.
And so you mentioned to me before that you've won some things in sport. Yeah,
I don't know. I've always been I was chatting with my mum the other day, and I was like, "Mum, did you ever see me being conventional? Ever since I was a little kid?" And she was like, "No, not really. For some reason, I was just always going to be a little bit alternative." And I suppose that's why, board sports and that sort of thing appealed to me a lot more than football. I was never good at footy because it was just weird, short shorts and stuff, and didn't really do much for me. But just the idea of just being me against me and just doing it whenever I wanted to, go skate or surf, or you're testing yourself against yourself. That really appealed to me. And so, yeah, I suppose that part of my nature that connected to that's why I kept pursuing it. And so I've pursued different kinds of board sports on and off, and it's weird. I always seem to get good enough at them to kind of achieve to some level, but that level means that I can teach other people to do it way better than I can. Oh, yeah. And then I'll just teach them, and then they just supersede me, but I'm pretty into it.
Well, there's this whole theory of as soon as one person breaks a record, then everyone can break that record.
Yeah, fully. Yeah. Well, they talk about that in skateboarding as well. When it's always hardest to do a trick that's never been done. They call it NBD. NBD, never been done. Mm-hmm. Same in wakeboarding, same in snowboarding. If you're going to do a new flip or something, an NBD is that's a big one to claim, a never been done. But as soon as someone does it, even the idea in and of itself that it can be done makes it infinitely easier for other people to unlock, because they're like, oh, I could do that too. Yeah. And even that shift in thinking, which is pretty profound. There's interesting little things to unpack from that, but that shift in thinking of I can do that too just means it's available to a bunch of people. But yeah, I've raced at World Cups a bunch of times for downhill skateboarding, and then I got really into wakeboarding as well. from working at the cable park, and competed at I suppose World Cup level on doing that. Had a cool time with that. Still doing that. Now I'm headed off to New Zealand to learn how to snowboard. Snowboarded one time when I was 13. So it's been 20 years since I've snowboarded, but I feel like I figured it out pretty quick.
I was wondering why you were like, what was in New Zealand that was dragging you to New Zealand?
Yeah, go snowboarding on the lunch break. It's funny though, because I was talking to my little brother about it actually a couple of days ago. He was like, "Oh, you're just going to be like the board sports guy." I was like, maybe. Like, it kind of could be a thing. It's actually, there's a few little maybe ideas floating around in the ether. But whenever I get into something, I seem to just really get into it. Like, okay, I'm going to learn how to downhill skateboard because I just met this dude that could do it. And I just had like a wonky little longboard, but he had like a race board. And within like a month, I was like learning to just go absolutely as fast as I could, and then just frantically collecting skateboards to go even faster, and then have to change this one and just get like super into it. And then decide that, I want to work at the wakeboarding park, and then get really into that, just go wakeboarding like every day as much as I can, just like learn as quick as I can. And that's inherent through my whole life. If I'm into something, like I'm been ferocious in learning about it and pursuing it.
Oh, can you also send me that video of the high five? I want to put it on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's this sick video that Craig's got of him doing is it a backflip?
Oh, it's not me doing a backflip.
Oh,
it's one of the Groms.
Oh,
so
wow.
I go underneath, and that's a cool.
Oh, you're the one underneath.
Yeah, that's the cool thing though. Shout out Jake and Quino, they're my boys. Yeah, Jake.
I was even thinking like even the person underneath is just perfectly timed.
That's me. So what that is as a way of it's a way of me encouraging dudes that are younger than me to do something that scares them in a controlled way.
Okay. Because
I know how to turn and go exactly underneath the kicker. So what for people that are listening to get your head around, just watch. Beck will post the video, I'm sure, but basically like you go underneath someone as they go off a jump and do a backflip. But not only that, we got a high five in the middle. So I know that I can do the underneath part really well. And then the little dude's got to know that, he can go over the top. And at the end of the day, it's going to be way worse for me. Like, I just cop a board in the head. But I'm tough and I could probably deal with that. It'd suck, but it'll be right. So that's a way of me just being like, you got this, buddy. Flipping go for it. Let's get it. And then, yeah, it happens. And it's a mess. It's such a nice feeling. Such a nice feeling to, like, help someone realize that they can do something that they didn't think they could do, especially when it's Grommies, like young crew that you can really tell that activates something in them. They're like, whoa, cool, I'm gonna do that, and then they just go for it. Like, they just get way better than you, way quicker. But yeah, so I'm real blessed to have still be in that community and able to hang out and teach crew stuff that I've learned through a bunch of crashes and a bunch of trying and stuff. Yeah,
and that's more like, connection to body and and balance and
yeah. Well, it all kind of goes together. But even it's interesting because at the moment it's sort of still just rolling into one amorphous collection of stuff that all relates to each other. Like, there's so much stuff in my wakeboarding that I can recognize that applies to so many other areas of my life. It's almost like an outward manifestation of something that I'm struggling at, or patterns I'm stuck in, or
can you give an example?
Okay, so with wakeboarding, and especially with downhill skateboarding, like, there's a common idea that you always go where you're looking.
Yeah, the same with motorbike riding.
Fully. Yeah. So if you're coming into, we use skateboarding. If you're coming into a corner like really fast, and you're freaking out because there's like some hay bales on the side of the track that are designed to stop you from smashing into the concrete wall of the trees. But if you're coming in really hot and you're freaking out and you start looking at the hay bales going, I don't want to crash into the hay bales, you'll go straight into the hay bales. Like, you always go where you're looking. The same in wakeboarding. Like, if you look down at your feet, for some reason we always want to look at our feet when we're balancing. But when you ride a bicycle, you don't need to look at your feet to pedal. You look up, you look where you want to go. Your body will just do it inherently. But if you look down, you go down, you fall over. So using that, like, you know, when stuff's happening in my life, I'm like, well, where am I looking? You know, am I looking at the problem? Am I looking down? You know, am I looking up? Am I looking past it, looking like where I really want to go? You know, and again, it's balance. You've still got to look at the problems. Don't like pretend that they don't exist, but, you know, really conscious of what you're paying attention to, because there's that real cool quote, Stand Upani, but I'm pretty sure I got it from someone else. But and I think even Darps used it in your last one. But where awareness goes, energy flows.
Oh yeah.
Same deal. You know, what you're looking at, what you're paying attention to, you go there.
I have similar things in my life. So if I have an accident, like a car accident, for example, I'll ask myself, what am I not seeing in my life? What am I not paying attention to? What, like, is the universe making me stop?
Yeah.
Like, just symbolically?
Yeah. Little listening things. I mean, that even ties back into, like, you know, listening to your body, but just learning to listen in general.
The signs,
you know, it's
of the universe.
No, but it's the same thing. You know, like listening to where am I looking? Because I'll still catch myself doing wakeboarding tricks. Yeah. And I'll be like, oh, you're looking in the wrong spot. Of course, that's why you're cooking it. You know, it pushes me right up against my fears too. There's like things that I just mentally can't get past. And it's weird because with certain tricks, like if I can go there in my head first, I can just unlock the trick like that.
Yes.
But if I can't mentally process how the trick's going to work, I can't get my body to do it unless I get real frustrated with myself. Sometimes I'll get in this zone where I'll just get like really frustrated and just like get absolutely out of my head and sometimes like make myself crash on purpose so that I'm just out of my own way and then I can do it. You know, like, and maybe there's
an interesting technique.
Maybe there's something to that, you know. Get out of your way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not recommended. Lots of crashing, but
gentle crashing.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Have you learnt ways to like crash safely?
Yeah, well, you get good at crashing too.
Yeah,
that's the other thing. Is
a lot of rolling, right?
Yeah, well, you always slam hardest when you're learning. Maybe there's a little life metaphor in that. You know, like say we're downhill skateboarding. You know, that's the thing. So I've fallen off a skateboard at 70 k's an hour and not taken any skin off.
Wow.
Because you get used to what's going to happen in that split second moment. You become acutely aware of like, oh my gosh, it's gone pear shaped. Catch myself. And you're wearing like special gloves with like plastic on the palms and I was literally just wearing jeans and a jumper. I was in New Zealand, went wonky around a corner, and next minute you're just like on your hands and shoes sliding on the road. Just being like, cool. I mean, maybe I scuffed my elbow, but if I'd been only skateboarding for like a couple of months, I would have got rolled. Would have taken all this skin off. But
would you have been going 70 k's within a couple of months?
I think I did on my first night trying. I did 62 k's an hour.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So same deal. You get good at crashing. You know, you get good at taking hits. You get good at taking falls.
A bit like life as well.
Yeah.
The hits keep on coming.
Yeah. But you get better at taking them as you get more experience. You get stronger. It doesn't you kind of see it for what it is, what's about to happen maybe, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I've been through this before. I can
or maybe you bounce back a little quicker or that kind of thing. There's heaps of little lessons all the way along, but I don't know. If you pay attention, again, if you listen, like there's so much available to learn from. Like my job at the moment, I don't really like it. I cut trees away from the power lines. It's kind of gross, but even that, I've learned so many lessons. Like just watching and paying attention and being in nature or being with people or, you know, just really listening, I think is something that I'm getting better at the moment. And it's cool. Yeah.
And then, so there's that not long before yoga and trance, or?
Yeah, so I probably went just did that, just went skateboarding hardcore, and then just one day randomly decided to do yoga, and then had, you know, pretty whoa moment, and then trance, and kind of got hooked into crew, and I was I was exploring other ways of, you know, testing my consciousness and stuff. And
Well, also I want to talk a bit about masculinity as well.
Hmm.
You know, you're around a lot of young guys. You're,
Mm-hmm.
you know, developing yourself as this role model. And how do you connect with your masculinity? Because I feel like you're quite balanced with the feminine and the masculine.
Yeah, I probably am.
Have you always been that way?
Probably some of that's from like having a pretty good relationship with mum. Probably some of that's probably being inherently like kind of caring or kind of, you know, a little bit more connected to my feminine side.
Did your mum teach you how to like express your feelings and stuff like that?
No, not really. She's just a good mum. Just showed me what love was.
Okay.
What it was like to be actually loved, you know, and so being a man and conveying that, but in a way that maybe I learned from mum probably makes me more connected to my feminine than maybe some dudes that weren't lucky enough to have that. But it is something that I try to balance. I don't want to be a dude that's just like super effeminate.
No.
And I mean, if that's your trip, that's cool. Everybody's got their trip. Perfect. You do you. But for me, like, I enjoy being a man. Truthfully, it's fun. You know, I've got all these crazy stories and did some cool stuff, and I like being around dudes and just getting, you know, doing man stuff. You know, but I recognize that balance is important. Too much of anything or one way or the other isn't ideal. So I do try to stay aware of that, of where I'm at. You know, am I being too flippin'
out of balance?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what would you like? How would you describe what being a man is?
Oh man. I think that truly, like, men. Are we going to go with like the ideal version of being a man?
Your version.
My version of being a man? I think that being a man has a lot to do with how can I put good words around this? Let me think about it properly. Inherently by our nature, we protect, you know, we're strong, we provide. That's, you know, physiologically we're geared that way. So I think that's part of our purpose of being a man is to hold that space. And I think that there's the strength that position allows, I think, is something that's obviously been like hugely abused and, you know, wrongly used for things that aren't good. But I think for me, like, to walk in that would be someone that people feel safe to be around, that you feel looked after, you feel cared for in a way that's not motherly, maybe, you know, because there's both sides to the deal. You know, mums provide care and safety as well, but it's that real nurturing, that real like nicey feeling, which is super good. I love it. But there's a different feeling when you're around a man who's walking in that. I felt that around a few dudes that are dads, and you're like, wow, cool, yeah, solid, safe, sweet. And it's a different feeling.
Yeah. I'm
interested in feelings. You know, you can feel when something's different. You can feel the difference between the safety that the masculine provides and the safety that the feminine provides. Being a platform that other people can be. I don't know. Maybe for me, being a man is kind of having a sort of a steadfastness. And maybe that's just the way that I was brought up or whatever. But the ability to kind of endure. The ability to move through things that maybe were difficult for other people. Yeah, it's interesting. It's pretty multifaceted.
Sounds a little bit like a warrior kind of archetype that you're describing there.
Yeah, I guess. You know, maybe some of those Viking dudes had it kind of figured out. You know, they could still hang out with their kids and go pick the veggies when they need to, and if you're flipping,
go cut some heads off as well.
Yeah, well, no, if you're super your really attractive Viking wife was like, "Oi, go hang the washing out." He's like, "Yes, dear," and then next day he's off like pillaging and plundering and bringing home all the goodies or whatever. Like, but that balance, that real the ability to like be a father or be a nurturer, but from a masculine point of view, but still be someone that you don't. I don't know. I like the fierceness, weirdly, of the masculine. That's actually something that I've been connecting with a little bit more lately. I've been doing kind of linking on from trance dance and dancing and stuff, and sort of just exploring different modalities to shake stuff out or change the way you feel about things, or explore, inner ways. Osho meditation.
Oh, yes, I would need to get to one of these.
Oh, you get around today. It's wild. It's real wild. Abby, shout out Abby. I've been to a few of hers, and they're mental. They're so good. It's a weird thing because Osho's kind of got a bit of a bad rap because of Wild Wild Country, and he's just a human being still. He might know some things more than other people, but he's just a human being. We all are. But yeah, so doing these Osho meditations. And so if you're not familiar with what an Osho meditation is, so it's an hour-long sort of process. And so you start with 10 minutes of chaotic breathing. So it's 10 minutes of like just no pattern, just through your nose. But it can be like... And you just go as hard as you can for 10 minutes. And it's designed to like kind of... The whole thing is designed to bring you out of your head and into your body, but then being in your body, just witness what's happening. And so because your breath informs your body of what's happening, when we're panicked, we breathe faster. When we're relaxed, we breathe slower. So when you start to just do this chaotic breathing, your body just goes like, what the heck? Right. What's going on? I'm not sure. And your mind and it almost becomes like too much for your mind initially. And so it's a way of like pushing your mind to the background a little bit and just being in the experience of having a body. So you do 10 minutes of the chaotic breathing, and then you do 10 minutes of catharsis. That's mental. So being in a room with like 20 other people who are just going for it. Just like...
Screaming.
Yell, scream, jump up and down. Oh, this is all blindfolded too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, blindfolded. So you're changing your relationship to space and time, and you're also shutting down the part of you that is self-conscious. Right. Because if you're going to yell and scream, but you're watching someone else and you're thinking like, what's this person doing? It's going to put you back into your head. So you're shutting that down. So you just go hard for 10 minutes, and it's wild because when you sit down at one of these meditations and Abby's running through it, she'll be like, okay, this is the part where you yell and scream, and you can see a bunch of people in the room just go, ooh, don't know if I can do that. But underneath, you can see that they want to.
Yeah.
And then when it starts, it just takes like two people just to be like, rah! And then everybody just goes for it. Like, just going for it. And it's all just this pent up flipping rubbish that we carry around with us. And catharsis, is a release. It's just an outlet. It's just what's the language I use? A space to go consciously mad. Go nuts.
I like that.
A perfect space to go nuts. So you do 10 minutes of catharsis, and then you do 10 minutes of mantra. So the mantra is just who. You just jump up and down on the spot with your hands above your head, just going ho, 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 ho. And this is kind of pushing you almost like beyond the limits of your body, and seeing what the difference is between a witness. So can you just watch it? Can you get tired and just be like, yeah, interesting, that's tired. That's what tired feels like, and just keep on going. You still have to balance it. You don't want to come to the place where like the first time I did it, I went really hard, as I do. And then after you do mantra, because I'm just getting so into it, I'm like, oh, and doing like double jumps. Like you're supposed to do like a doom jump sort of, but I'm just doing two doom for 10 minutes. And then after mantra, you stop for 15 minutes and you just stand completely still.
Wow.
Like take Tadasana, and just stand completely still. And the concept is just to witness everything that's just happening in your body right now. Feel your heart rate, feel your breath, feel the wind. Because by the end of this half an hour, you're just pouring sweat. Like I was literally stood in a puddle on the floor. I was so self-conscious. But as soon as I stopped, I was just going for it in mantra. And as soon as I stopped, I was really out of breath. This is the first time I did it. I've been, getting into it a little bit more. But I was super out of breath. And I'd heard Ram Dass talking about breath. So one of the hardest things to witness when you're dying, if you're going to be the witness and just go, oh, that's interesting, a feeling. Apparently when you're dying, it's really difficult to witness the inability to breathe. But even that is just a feeling. I can't breathe. That's interesting. So I went so hard that when I stopped and stood in Tadasana, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so out of breath. It feels like my soul's about to exit my body. But that's okay, just witness that. The witness, yes. This is what dying feels like. Okay, we're good. And just witnessing that. But about 2 or 3 minutes in, I just started feeling super sick. On the edge of throwing up.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just shaken all this stuff up accidentally because just reckless old Craig just goes for it. And it does. It shakes stuff energetically as well. You're releasing trauma, you're releasing tensions from your body. And it was funny because that day I didn't really honor my body too hard. Like I'd just been a little bit lazy with my eating. And I just felt all of it. It was like sucked in. You put it all in there and you shook it up and now you're getting it back out. And I was stood there like in Abby's flipping little space and just being like, oh gosh, I'm going to throw up on the carpet. And didn't. Held it all in. But so you stand for 15 minutes and then you get to move. So the last 15 minutes is like embodied movement. So it's a bit like ecstatic dance, but it's almost like a celebration. Like, you made it to the end. And then you get to listen to your body. And then your body's just like, oh my gosh, what did you just put me through? And you're like, I'm really sorry, but it's good for you. You're going to be okay. And now you get to dance. So you sort of just listen and shake your shoulders around or move however, kind of lie on the floor and stretch or whatever. But yeah, that's really powerful. Where are we going?
Masculine.
Oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah, you're a good reminder, Beck. Thank you. I'm glad you're paying attention. So it's interesting because in Osho meditation, the catharsis for me wasn't just releasing stuff. I've been doing a fair bit of work over the last year, especially, and feeling fairly. There's always more work to be done, but feeling pretty clear. And so some of the times in the Osho meditation, rather than just like being like, oh, I've got all this rubbish inside, I have to shake it out, or same as trance dance, connecting with expressions of masculinity that I've never connected with before. So in say, for example, Osho meditation, just like literally just being like, don't mess with me. Like, and expressing what that feels like, just being like, raw, come on. And it's interesting. There's a little resurgence in its popularity, Osho meditation, and in men's circles. And there's this dude Elliot Holst, this crazy flippin' YouTube guy. He's a bit of an odd character, but he's big on it. He's got some wacky views though. I'm not all about him. He's interesting though, but that's one of his big deals. And it's interesting that it's kind of this tantric guru who is now come up with this idea, and then men are kind of connecting with it as a way of reconnecting with their masculinity, because it's a space to really just be like, I'm a man, come at me, because we don't get to do that. Men these days are pretty subdued, and for good and bad reasons. Men have a lot to answer for as far as rubbishy things they've done in the world and politics and all of this flipping, I don't think that it's any mistake that every missile in the world looks like a giant penis. So they've got a lot to answer for. But at the same time, you can't crush something completely because it's not all bad. There's a space for that, and I think that needs to be brought back into the forefront, like conscious, flipping, safe, integral, or with integrity, masculinity.
I'd be very interested to go for myself to see what comes up.
I'll get around it. Yeah.
Aaron was telling me a little bit about it, and I'm like, I've been really feeling the need to just scream somewhere.
Yeah.
And even just that in itself. Because I've seen in like other countries where they've got these rooms where you can just smash shit up.
Yeah, that'd be so fun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to like let shit out that's in there. But screaming into your pillow is not that exciting.
Well, the other thing as well is there's power in collective collective vibration, collective gathering. And that's one thing that I've really noticed. So especially with Osho meditation and also with dancing, more so ecstatic dance when you can dance with other people. But the power in collectively pursuing a goal together gives you more permission to pursue that goal. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So if you're just screaming in a room by yourself, you might go for a minute and you'd be like, yeah, this is weird. Or,
true.
This is not as satisfying. But when you're in a room with like 20 other people who are just like literally like, screw it, I just need to shake some of this stuff out. I just need to get it out. 10 minutes and go hard. It gives you permission to go there yourself. So there's a power in agreeing to go.
You can probably pull out more than you would.
Oh, fully. Yeah. It's the same reason, birds travel in flocks. They can go way further together. So if you're going to go into a place of release or to wholeness or, gaining what you want out of an experience, to go there with some other people. I mean, there's value in there going alone as well. There's a right time and place for everything. But yeah, for stuff like this, where it's really like good to have crew around you and just be like, guys, we're doing it together. Let's get it. It's amazing.
I had an experience at Trance actually where for whatever reason people just started screaming. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to get in on that too.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it's something that I've been playing with heaps, especially after coming back from Blazing Swan. That was pretty cool. Really cool. But playing around with watching how stuck dudes are when they dance. So Blazing Swan was a real interesting experiment for me because I really enjoy how it feels to dance and move however I want to. And the more I allow myself to do that, the more I don't care what people think. I'm just like, well, you can judge me if you want. Have a cool time with that because I'm having a cool time here. But the more permission I give myself to move freely, the more I can. And I see how stuck dudes are when they dance. And I think a bit like, when you say there's a room where you can just go and smash stuff. And there's a little part of maybe, a bunch of people listening to this that are like, yeah, that sounds pretty cool, but I might not even tell anybody that because it might feel a bit naughty or whatever. But inherently it appeals to you. I think it's the same way when you see someone dance because you're just like, wow, that person's moving really freely. I'd like to do that. Must feel good. But dudes especially, pretty stuck because we're not supposed to dance. We're supposed to be dudes and man and strong and huh. And so when I was at Blazing Swan, there's so many dudes that are dancing, air quotes, but they're sort of holding their beer and sort of wiggling from side to side a little bit and maybe like sort of tapping a foot. And some of the music is absolutely banging. Like I met this kid who was 13 years old.
What?
DJing in like some of the flipping, man, he was a rad dude. Shout out Genji, your boss. But yeah, so there's these dudes that are just stuck. There's this cranking music playing, and you can just see them standing there, and it's almost like this little wiggle that they're doing is like that inherent part of their soul that's like, yeah, moving feels good. And there's this other masculine part that's like, yeah, but dudes don't dance, bro. And there's this battle between them. And so I'd just go like full permission to give myself, like, hang on, I would give myself, use my words probably, Craig, give myself full permission to move exactly how I wanted. I'd just go up and start dancing, especially with dudes, like right in front of them. And it's crazy. I'd do these little experiments. I'd have my glasses on, so they kind of can't see as much who you are. You just become like a body that's moving. And I'm wearing all crazy clothes and just look like, sort of from outer space a little bit. So they have this like creature in front of them who's wearing glasses and is just moving however he wants to move. And you can see that when you move like that, it activates something in them, because they'll sort of like, their arms might start to move a little bit, and then their hips come in, and then they smile a little bit, and you can tell they're just like, oh, dang, son, this feels good, like, and then you might see them 10 minutes later, and they're having a little bit more of a boogie, and I'm like, heck yeah, like, I helped that person get a little bit freer.
Yeah.
Like, I'm having a cool time too, and just boogieing my face off.
You just gave them a bit more, showed them they can give themselves a bit more permission.
Yeah, because who cares? Everybody wants to dance. Everybody wants to flip and yell and scream sometimes to process bad emotions or energy or whatever, but we don't give ourselves very much permission sometimes, especially dudes, and that's so important because it's really fun when you start to do it. So fellas, if you're listening, think about it. Ask yourself, like, and maybe you don't. Maybe you're just listening to me and you're just like, who's this flipping weirdo? It's a dude and he likes dancing. That's cool too. Sweet, no worries. But, ask yourself, how much permission am I giving myself to be free?
With anything, really, hey?
Fully. Yeah. Because it's the same. Like, dancing is just a metaphor. Wakeboarding, anything. It's all just metaphors. But it's coming down to that, like, yeah, how much do you want to be free? How much do you allow yourself to just stay stuck in your own shit? How much do you want to get out of it? Because there's an aspect of us that does, and then maybe there's an aspect of us that doesn't as well, because it's sometimes more comfortable to stay.
Definitely. We know what it's like there.
Yeah, fully. I think that's another lesson that some of my more dangerous pursuits have taught me, is that the value of being uncomfortable, because that's where the good stuff is. Like, you can't learn a new trick on a wakeboard without slamming.
Yeah, you can't learn too much from being in your comfort zone.
No,
that's for sure.
But if you allow yourself to come to a place where you kind of can start to get comfortable with the idea of being uncomfortable, and to move into a place of acceptance of some of the discomfort that comes with it. My interesting little check-in is cold showers. I'll go through phases. I'm shocking with it though, because I'll go through phases where I don't. But I'll go through phases where I'll like turn the shower to cold every time I hop out, before I hop out. It's hard in wintertime, but I still push myself to do it. It's going to be hard in New Zealand though. Ooh, cold. Because that's like an immediate check-in in regards to like, how much are you resisting something that's good for you but's uncomfortable. So when I go to turn the shower to cold, there's some mornings and I'm like, heck yeah, I get it. The cold feels good, and it does. I can feel the goodness that the cold is doing. And then there's other mornings and I'm like, no way, it's too cold. I want to be warm. And so straight away at the beginning of the day, I've got a little check-in, and that's cool. If you're having a squirrely or a sensitive sort of day, that's cool. Accept that. But just again, it's still listening. You've got these little things that are giving you feedback as to where you're at, and just honor that. But yeah, moving into spaces that are uncomfortable has been a big thing for me.
Yeah, same for me. And I feel like you and I have been on this similar path, and yet we're just just crossing paths
Oh,
like now,
fully.
really. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you're just like a brother from another mother.
Yeah, I feel you back for sure. 100%. It's interesting though. There's lots of crew, similar conversations all around the place.
And I'm actually really, I'm really pleased with how this whole podcasting has occurred, because we've gotten to talk a bit more and gotten to connect more. Now you're leaving, but you'll be back.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good. Like, I understand you more now, and it's confirmed a lot of what I saw in you when I met you as well, which is cool.
Thanks. Yeah, I feel like this is a good thing because I'm sort of peripheral on a bunch of different scenes around the place, and I have a really diverse group of friends and interests in that sort of thing.
Yeah, you're pretty busy.
Pretty busy guy.
Pretty busy.
But it's always nice for people to know who you are and where you come from.
Yeah.
What the deal is. So.
Yeah, and like this whole learning to sit in the uncomfortable is something I've been learning heaps this year. And just when you decide to go, okay, I'm going to be here, it changes.
Yeah, fully.
It's sort of like when you're like absolutely sick and you can't stop throwing up. You just have to deal with it, and you just have to go through it.
Yep.
And it's gonna be over soon.
Yep.
And so I just apply that anytime I'm like in uncomfortable feelings, and it's so painful. I'm like, just stay in it. Don't resist it. Just feel it all and let it out, and it'll be over quicker.
Yeah. Well, I heard a cool quote the other day, and it was speaking on suffering, and it was saying that suffering is just pain plus resistance. So when you attach to it and you're like, oh, stop, I don't want to, and you apply that resistance, then it becomes suffering. I mean, again, it's all just metaphors, but I get the whole back of my leg flipping tattooed, and there was definitely moments where I was just like, no, stop, don't want to anymore. But I can actually step into a space where I just allow. And you're like, of course it's going to hurt. You're doing a stupid thing anyway. You're just squiggling all over your body, but I don't know, I'm into it. But you actually try to start to detach the resistance to the pain, because you know that as you move through the pain and allow and be with it, that the good stuff's at the end. You might have a cool tattoo, or you might learn a few cool little life lessons, or you might have grown a little bit stronger, So
I was going to ask you, tattoos for me have been a super intimate, intensive, getting to know myself, spiritual, like a whole fucking process.
Yeah.
And you're covered in them. Is it the same for you?
Yeah, fully.
A lot of them, or all of them, or?
In terms of the experience, or in terms of wearing them, or how do you mean?
Well, okay. For example, Fabiano.
Shout out
Fab.
Love you.
He's done a wolf on my thigh, and
I bet he was super gentle. Is he, or is he a bit of a punisher?
No, he's good.
Yeah, I reckon he'd be.
I'd only had a female tattoo artist before.
Okay, yeah.
And then going to him, it was a whole different energy. But I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, Fab's the boss.
As the process of the tattoo kind of appearing on my leg was like intense. So you're in this intimate setting, you're sharing stuff about yourself and like, what the tattoo means for you.
Yeah.
And depending on what it means, it's like deeper or not so. But for me, like we did the mouth, and then I went away to work and I was just fucking ferocious to everyone. I was
no way.
Mouthing off at everyone.
Really?
Just cutting sick.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, just like not letting them trample on me. Like, fuck you, fuck off. And I even dropped some C-bombs. And then after the mouth, we went up to the nose and one of the eyes. And I felt like my whole senses were just going nuts. Like,
really?
Even my own sense of smell, which I was like, what the fuck? No way. And I was just seeing things totally different. and perceiving things completely different. And I'm like, Fab, the tattoo is like doing something to me. What the hell? And then when the rest of it came, I was just like so much more centered and calmer, and I could feel like tingling coming from this tattoo even after it's healed, and I could just feel the energy from it. Like symbols are so powerful.
Oh, fully, yeah. And
even the one on the back of my head, that just had some power, and I had no idea about symbols before.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I believe that, and I mean, especially like with someone like Fab who has an awareness of probably some of the more meta concepts that we of the realm that we exist within.
Like anything like that happened for you with your tattoos? What's this leg one about?
Oh, that was from my friend, who's shout out Luke. Love you, Luke. Luke's one of my absolute best friends in the world. I've known Luke since he was probably 15, and now he's like tattooing full time and just crushing. Just like a dude that had a dream and was just like, that's what I'm going to do, and just stood absolutely steadfast to it. And now he's doing it, and I was privileged enough to sort of, help him out along the way. But so, what does getting tattooed for me mean? It's interesting because the first ever person that made me think about getting tattooed was my grandma.
Oh, wow.
So, Mum, you can blame Grandma. I tell her that. No, Grandma was maybe like in her 70s. She was traveling around Australia, and she was like super church lady as well. Amazing woman. And she's in Mount Isa. She's like, no, I'm old enough now. I'm getting a tattoo. So she went to the local tattoo studio, who just happened to be owned by one of the oldest like traditional tattooers in Australia. I think he's still around. I want to get a tattoo from him. But she went in there and she's like, I want a white dove, and put a white dove on my arm.
White.
Because it's like, classical Christian. Yeah. Like that's if you're a Christian lady and you want to get tattooed, it's probably the best thing you can get tattooed is a white dove. But he was like, no, white's no good. Doesn't sit in the skin nicely. And it doesn't. It goes yellow over time. It just looks like a bit bleh. And so he was like, we could do a bluebird. She's like, yeah, that sounds nice. Let's do a bluebird. And so they did a bluebird. And then apparently the bluebirds, she didn't realise at the time, but it's like the traditional sailor image for like a lady of the night. Like you got a bluebird tattoo, basically like a prostitute. Which is so good. Because she just then owned it. She's like, oh, well, got a bluebird, whatever. But I remember...
So many people have bluebirds. I didn't know that.
I got a bluebird.
Lady on the night.
Yeah, maybe. Nah, not. No, but that was like and it's funny, talk about specific moments and stuff, but that was a moment, like I clearly remember being in Grandma's house in Mannum in South Australia, and Grandma walking in and talking about her tattoo and just looking at it and being like, whoa, cool, you can draw on your skin and it doesn't come off. And that was the first ever, kind of time that I'd thought about getting tattooed. And then I suppose like just being raised in, sort of skateboard and punk rock culture and stuff as I got a little bit older and stuff, and just seeing dudes and, as I got, sort of 15, 16, 17, got into like hardcore music and stuff, and just seeing dudes and just being like, wow, cool, yeah. And then just starting to get it tattooed a little bit, and kind of wearing a few little ones. The first ever one I did myself. I tattooed a little Jesus fish.
Jesus fish.
Yeah, man. On my ankle. It's still there. I'll show you after. Yeah, when I was, I think, 16. Because I'd read... I was doing a school project on tattoos because I decided that tattoos were cool. And then I'd read this article written by a Christian tattooer, and he was like, yeah, first time I tattooed myself was with a guitar string. And I was like, I could do that. I didn't have a guitar string, so I just got a pin and some rollerball ink and just sat on my bed one night and just tattooed a Jesus fish onto my ankle. Didn't tell Mum. She didn't know until I was 18. And I had a broken back. And I was in the hospital, and I had to wear these like flipping horrible leg things to stop you getting deep vein thrombosis. She was massaging my feet, and then she just looked and she's like, what's this, Craig? And I was like, yeah, it's all good, but I got a broken back, let's focus on that. But yeah, I got my first one. I did my first one myself when I was 16, and then just started getting kind of more and more and bigger, and just ones with different meanings. Some have like really profound meaning. So I got a bluebird on the same arm, on the same spot when my grandma passed away. And that was the first tattoo that my mum ever gave me like a full blessing for. Called her up and I was like, "Oh, Mum, want to get the same tattoo as Grandma?" And she's like, "Yeah, you should do that, Craig." And so I did. Yeah, it's probably one of my faves. Right through to like just like crazy stuff that I've just let friends tattoo on me, or just stuff that I've picked because, you know, it fits the spot, or because I essentially want my whole body to be covered in tattoos by the time I'm done.
Is the one on your calf, does that mean anything?
It was a design that one of my good friends, like Luke, this dude, painted for me as a birthday present. It's like this looking big muscly dude. The muscly dude has a nipple ring. It's great. And he's riding a tiger, but he's got a lion headdress on.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just this crazy image. And he gave it to me as this wicked painting. And then, we were just like, "Dude, we should tattoo this. It's so wild. It's so out there. Like, it's literally a man wearing a lion, riding a tiger. Perfect." So we just rocked that. But, you know.
Pay attention to...
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Bit of the masculine coming out, just cruising around on a tiger. And
more wild Craig.
with it, yeah. No nipple rings. But that's not for Craig, but that's cool if you want to do that.
They hurt.
Oh, Beck knows what's up. I'm sure they do.
Hurt a lot.
Yeah, that's rough. That's gnarly, dude. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, tattoos are just a fun thing. It's, I don't know. It's you only get one turn at living, really, like fully. And I've been realizing that heaps more lately. And you don't have, you know, forever. So just, you know, if it lines up with how you feel, you know, this suits the direction that you're going, yeah, chase it. You know, if you want to make good decisions, though, don't go and get your flipping throat tattooed straight away. That's a crazy idea. You know, start small, but, you know, if you want to do that.
I can only imagine the pain of that one.
Yeah, probably pretty rough. No throat tats. I don't think I'll get throat tats. I like the idea of being able to wear like a long sleeve shirt and pants and have no tattoos, and then
I would so get my face done.
have heaps. Really?
Yeah, totally.
Full narco bear styles. Just to drop that in there.
To know about that.
Really? Wow, would you get tattooed in your face?
I don't know. It would come to me.
Something wild.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But it would be a definite build up. I wouldn't just get my face done.
Yeah, that face tats are wild.
Even when I got my fingers done,
Mm-hmm.
my tattoo artist warned me.
Yeah.
She's like, "You don't have a full sleeve. You're like,
Yeah.
people will judge you."
Pretty common.
I'm like,
yeah.
"What? Really?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "What?"
Because it's not a tattoo you can hide ever.
Yeah.
You know, but it's any time you know, you're getting tattooed and you're making a change to your body.
Yeah. I love them.
Yeah, that's it.
Love them.
That's it. Whose body is it?
I had no fear until she mentioned that.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh shit, should I get it?" And I was like, "No, yeah."
If it's something that fits and it sits, then you know. Yeah.
But okay, so we got a bit sidetracked.
We did. Talking about tats.
I also want to know, so this whole process of you growing and being self-aware and learning more about yourself and then finding some plant medicine, what has plant medicine then taught you compared to what you were learning before?
That's a real goodie. That's a really complex question because there's actually a lot to it for me. It's not just a matter of like, I took heaps of mushrooms and now I'm a different person. It's actually not even close to that. Even stuff like realizing, say for example with cacao, like if we want to talk about, you know, plant medicines, there's your common guys that get spoken about, but there's a bunch of other goodies in there as well that kind of get overlooked. Cacao.
Oh, the first time I had cacao was at yours.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, cacao's amazing. Cacao, if you've not had cacao, it's very uplifting, and this is in like a pure form. This isn't just like from the shops in the box. It's with the butter and with the whole deal. But it's the reason that we like kind of enjoy chocolate, because it actually produces a bunch of really good neurochemicals in your brain. And so even rediscovering stuff like that, like sitting in real nice like cacao ceremony, before you dance, or I did a really cool one time with Willow and Catherine, really opening in, like connecting to your heart. That's something that was really powerful for me, because it's something that's, I think there's a lot of things that have a lot of power, but because they've been misused, it's kind of had the edges worn off. So even, say for example, like cacao, you know, if you use it in the right, you know, way, it can provide some really beautiful experiences or some deep insights. But it just gets processed into like literally big sugary bars. Even tobacco. I mean, traditionally in a bunch of cultures, tobacco is regarded as a master plant, you know, as far as a teacher. And we've just commercialized it, and basically taking something that has an inherent amount of power in and of itself, and then just kind of misused it.
And added a bunch of chemicals. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, a bunch of bad stuff that's not actually tobacco at all. But yeah, I've had experiences with tobacco that have been like super grounding, you know, super and when I say experiences, it's not like just smoking a cigarette, like with harpe and stuff, like really, really beautiful, really, really, really grounding. And it's funny because I was actually, this is kind of going a little bit off topic, but we'll come back onto topic. I was actually thinking about, because a big part of my, I suppose, spiritual pathway at the moment has been almost kind of rediscovering some of the teachings of Jesus and the Bible and some of the truths, and kind of spinning out on the idea that maybe because of the inherent power and beauty of those teachings, it is open to misuse or misinterpretation, or, you know, the same way tobacco. So, okay, we have tobacco as a master plant, or even, let's go with cacao, even better. So this amazing plant that comes from nature, that if you use it in the right, you know, set and setting, it can provide some really beautiful insights, but we just fill it up with sugar and we do all this bunch of stuff, and we, you know, just gets massively commercialized. So, I mean, Jesus, I've been rediscovering that lately. I've been hanging out with Jesus a little bit more, weirdly. And that's something that I never thought I would say. You know, ask me 5 years ago and I'd be like, oh, yeah, maybe. I just don't want to talk about it. But there's some really beautiful teachings on like love and truth and so much stuff. You know, we can, you know, talk for a while about it. But on the whole, like this idea that, you know, there's 33,000 different variations of Christianity.
I didn't know that.
That's a trip, hey?
Whoa.
So imagine if you're Jesus and you're just like, know what's up. You know who you are. You know that you're an aspect of the divine. And you want to connect other people with God as well. So you do a bunch of really amazing stuff. and you literally draw a line in the sand of time. You know, we measure stuff off of that one dude's death, whether you like it or not, whether, you know, you think church is good or bad or whatever. You know, that's literally a line in the sand. So that dude had something going on. He had a pretty powerful message. And then just along the way, through a whole series of Chinese whispers, and I like this, I don't like that, and this person's wrong, and that person's wrong, and the nature of people. It's gone 33,000 different factions. And then which one of those is right? I think there's more to it than that. You know, I think there's really getting back to the truth of love. For me, that's been a really big part of my journey lately. But yeah, just kind of what Darpin was talking about in his last one as well. You know, love or fear. You know, like Jesus was pretty much unafraid. You know, he cruised around and, you know, did some cool stuff and just stayed connected to love. And the more I do that in my life lately, the better things seem to get. You know, I'll look at a decision and be like, what am I really acting out of here? Am I acting in love or am I acting in fear? You know, and that's a core tenet of Jesus' teaching, not just Jesus, but a bunch of other spiritual traditions. But it's pretty cool, pretty simple sort of stuff in there. But sadly, because of misinterpretation and commercialization and overuse, is kind of
an ego and power.
All of
and
it,
money.
yeah, all of it, yeah. So still unpacking that, still figuring out what that is, but yeah, it's interesting. Jesus.
Yeah, a few years ago, I couldn't even stand the word God.
That's interesting. So. Can I ask why?
Well, I was raised in a church as well, and
okay,
a lot of bad stuff happened there. Yeah. And my dad ended up starting his own church, which turned out to be sort of like a cult.
Crazy.
And I just didn't want a part of that.
It's just a rough time. Yeah, fully. Yeah, I fully get it. And that's something I always struggled with as well, because, you know, I've literally seen it happen. You know, like church splits happening over people not agreeing with certain things that the pastor said, and this and that and the other. And I'm like, well, which one's right?
But in saying that too, I remember as a kid, sometimes the pastor would be talking and I felt like he was talking about my life.
Oh, fully.
I was like, what the... How the hell does it... So you're getting the messages coming.
Well, I really think, right, so we got a bit distracted from plant medicine, but we'll come back to that. We'll go back. I really think... I heard this really beautiful metaphor the other day of religion. And basically all of the major religions of the world, and you can basically even bring that down to church congregations, but any organization of people that gather together with a spiritual intent, if you imagine what they're doing is that they're digging for water. And so water is source, water is connection to God. Right, so we're going to get together, even by ourselves, might be 3 of us, might be 20,000 of us, and we're going to dig down to water. And you do. Because the core philosophy of all of the major religions are pretty similar when you look especially on an esoteric level. There's a lot of similarities. And so you've got all these people seeking the same thing, but they're digging different wells because they live in different countries and they're raised in different places and they have slightly different ways of going about it, but they're all essentially doing the same thing. They're all digging a well to get to some water, to connect to source. And in that, they connect to something higher, whether it's through different spiritual practices according to the tradition that they're pursuing. They connect to source. They find some water. And then when they find some water, and you dig a well, you build a well around it. But then you kind of get distracted, maybe, by how fancy the well looks. Or you dig a really big well and other people can see that you've got some water there, so they want to come to your well. And then you start to, because you're connected to source, because you're connected to power, you start to dish out some of that water. But then the ego comes in, or power is a tricky thing to dance with. Any position of power takes a great deal of integrity and a great deal of the ability to live in truth, to hold that position in real integrity, I think. And along the way, people have messed that up. So they're connected to source in some sort of way, but they're also tripping on how good their well looks, or like, don't look at those guys' well. Their well sucks. Like, don't drink the water from that well. That well's poisonous, man. Come only to our well. And so, I think in some ways, like I've had in church, I've had genuine moments of truth and of connection to source, to the divine, to God. But because there's been so much focus on the well and all of the shenanigans that have gone on around the well, and who did this, and this guy built another well over there, and his wells might be a bit better, we should go and check that out. Or there's all this trauma, there's all this damage that's been done, and that's such a bummer, because at the end of the day, we're all just looking for the same thing. But I think people are becoming more open to digging their own wells, and really starting to explore connection to the divine for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really interesting, because I see that in so many different people that I meet around the way.
Well, I definitely feel my connection to the higher power, or the creator of all, or universal energy, whatever it is, or God.
Yeah.
With psychedelics.
Yep.
I've had it before them,
mm-hmm.
and I've had it during them,
mm-hmm.
and I have it after them.
Well, that's an interesting observation, because right, so if you want to imagine that God is everything, there is nothing outside of God. When you chant Om,
mm-hmm.
like, has over 100 different meanings, but one of the meanings is welcome to the God.
Ah.
Right, so when you're chanting Om, that's basically saying, welcome to God, welcome to everything, welcome to the vibration that the entire universe is made up of. And so what you do when you take a psychedelic is you're basically letting more information in. That's the way that they work. They're lowering the default mode network, if anybody doesn't know that. And our default mode network is what filters out information within reality so that we can function. So when you lower the curtains a little bit, open the shutters a little bit, of course, maybe you're going to push yourself into a place where you're like, oh my gosh, there's more to this than I thought. There's more to this existence than I could see with my own two eyes. And that's useful, I think, because, it's all to do with perception. You can only... you can only understand something if you can perceive it.
Yes. I think also feeling goes with that perceiving too.
Well, that's experience. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So it's connected. So perception is experiential, I think, by nature.
Mm.
Like I can explain to you what the gig was like, what the band was like. If I went to an amazing gig, but unless you're there to experience it, kind of is not the same thing. I could use the best words. So what you're doing is, when you're lowering, whatever way you want to do it, meditation, psychedelics, any dance, whatever, any of these modalities that you feel called to, done properly, you're like lowering the gates and allowing more of that information to come in. And so of course you're going to have an experience outside of yourself that nobody else can tell you about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
It's almost like, say you go to a conventional church, and they tell you all about what God is. And that was one of the things that used to really trip me out in church, actually. That was one of my struggles, because we would be in church and we'd have this crazy, time in church and praise and worship and stuff. And then people would walk out and be like, oh my gosh, like I just experienced God so much today and really felt him. And maybe they did, I can understand how they might. But if you had just experienced the an intimate relationship with the being, the everything that created the entire universe, you're probably not going to be able to go out for lunch straight afterwards. And that used to trip me out, because like, say for example, you were swimming in the ocean and a great white shark came along and you're snorkeling and you saw it. That would be wild. You would get out and be like, oh my gosh, that was crazy. Like I just experienced a great white shark. And you're probably not going to be able to just like regularly then go out and sit and have a nice lunch with your friends. You're going to be like, oh boy, that's going to take you a while to process. And you just experienced a big scary shark, not a being that created the entire universe.
I don't know, but unless you often experience a big great white shark,
yeah, of course,
it's like, nah.
Yeah,
like if you often experience God,
maybe. Yeah, maybe that's an interesting thought. But yeah, I just couldn't get my head around how maybe nonchalantly people described experiencing God in church. And maybe they did, and I really do, I'm not speaking against it. I really do think that there's authentic connection to be had.
And maybe it's like that your perception is it would be mind-blowing, but maybe it's more subtle for other people too.
Yeah,
that's
fair call. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you there.
Yeah, well, there's just like a whole bunch of don't know. I've seen the ego is really visible.
Yeah.
In going to certain things.
A bit pompous, like.
Oh yeah.
I've seen God today.
Yeah. I'll more like, you can have a little bit of water. I'll dish it out. And that's cool, but don't know. There's a crazy Carl Jung quote, and it says that, I think it's Carl Jung, that the purpose of religion is to protect people from a direct experience of God. To kind of filter it out, because when you do experience like really authentic connection to like, oh my gosh, there's something bigger than me, whatever language you want to put around it. Yeah,
you kind of changed like forever.
Yeah, maybe you can't just go straight out for lunch afterwards. Maybe you can. I'm not sure. But yeah, this is still something that I'm, and it's funny because it was weird. I almost like at the beginning of the podcast wanted to like put like a caveat, like a little disclaimer, like I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Oh, none of us do, right?
Yeah, well, that's it.
We just do our best.
Yeah, that's it. And I fully reserve the right to change. But at this point in time, it's kind of where I'm at. But at the same time, super open. Still pray.
It's really interesting that God is coming back in a new way.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens. I'm just staying open.
Yeah.
Just like, because Jesus was kind of a radical dude. When you really start to read into the Bible, he was kind of a badass. Kind of did some pretty punk rock things.
Well, I've been more interested in like how people have noticed the wording and the references to the possibility of plant medicine being used back in those days.
Fully. Well, Jesus
with God.
Jesus prayed and fasted for 40 days in the desert. Like no food for 40 days. You're going to be in an altered state.
Yeah. Well, that's sort of
for sure.
A lot of the tribesmen do in like their vision quests and stuff, right?
It's the same thing.
Sun dancing and all of that.
Yeah, well, that's, like Sundance is a slightly different thing.
But they fast as well.
Yeah. But I think what Sundance is like less than a week, 10 days maybe.
Oh, okay, yeah.
5 days. I mean, they do some other crazy like, hanging off of trees and stuff by hooks and stuff. And that's a way of altering consciousness and stuff. But like, go spend 40 days in the desert and fast. You're going to be kind of tripping balls by the end of it.
If you're not dead.
Yeah, well, Jesus was a crazy guy. And he did some radical things, like it's interesting actually. So to unpack some of that, it's weird. So you're saying that the kind of the concept of like God, or for me, and of course, like take it or leave it. If your trip's different than mine, that's totally cool. But for me, like it's been really cool to sort of unpack some things that I really struggled with in church as well. Like one of the things, for example, I always struggle with David. So David in the Bible is this amazing king, amazing poet. And God says in the Bible that he was a man after his own heart. Like David knew what was up with God. David knew God. And David at one point was so in love with God that he got naked. He was the king of the nation. He got naked and danced in the streets in pure ecstatic expression of his love for God. Now, if who's our current Prime Minister? I don't know what day of the week it is.
Is it
Scott Morrison? Is that him? I don't know. Anyways, if I
I don't watch TV.
Me neither.
Is it Malcolm someone?
I don't know. I should vote. Get a better one.
We have to vote soon.
Yeah, we do. Now, if our current let's pick Donald Trump. If Donald Trump loved God so much that he got naked and danced around in the street, game over. He'd be locked in jail. Be like he's lost his mind.
But like back in those days, was it like normal?
No, not that normal. I don't think. Still don't think it was that normal to like, because you're the king. You're the man who's like holding it all together for the kingdom.
Wasn't that like you're gonna have to school me on this?
Yeah, you're right. Go as best I can.
Wasn't that like when Caesar was cutting babies up as well?
When's David? No, David's before that.
Like, so.
Yeah, not hugely common, I don't think, to be just dancing around naked in front of your subjects when you're the king of the kingdom. But God still's like, yeah, David's a dude after my own heart. Like, I love him. And David did some other psycho stuff. He wanted this chick. He saw this chick bathing, and he was like, fire out, she's all right. But she was married. She had a husband. So David sent the husband off to battle. And he got killed. And God was still like, yeah, still love you anyway. Now that's a trip, because if God can see past that, then basically I'm good.
Yeah.
No matter what, can't mess up too hard. As long as I stay connected to him as best I can with what I have at hand in,
Favourites. Playing favourites.
Nah, God doesn't have favourites, man. He loves us all.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a murderer.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
As long as you love me, I love you.
Yeah, it's all love. It's all just story. It's all just things that happen, and at the end of the day, it's connection to source that matters, and maybe that relationship was there. And again, this is all metaphor.
But so is that like
take it as metaphor if you want. Maybe I should phrase it that way.
Did that like make you angry at the people that?
Well, I could. Okay, so to expand on that, so I was. That was one thing I struggled with in church. Was like, okay, so what would happen if I just loved God so much that I just decided to get naked and dance around in front of the church? Wouldn't have been cool. Would have been kicked out. I was like, but David got to do it. That didn't make any sense. And it was like if times just changed or something, or just like changed the rules of the Bible a little bit. But I was dancing the other night and just like fully free. I wasn't naked. I wasn't, I promise. But just fully feeling free to dance and to move and just to be in the pure moment of just like enjoying having a body and moving. And I was kind of like, man, this is maybe what like David felt like. Just enjoying the nowness, enjoying the God in everything, and just being so in love with it all that he's just like, screw it. Isn't everything sweet? I dance. So that was, David, crazy guy, did some crazy things, but goes to show that you can never be completely screwed up, maybe. Maybe it's a little bit hopeful,
If you believe in God.
Well, if you're connected to source.
Yeah.
If you're...
okay,
whatever language you want to put around it.
Okay.
Because we go through stuff in our lives that we judge ourselves for. Mm-hmm. Like how it would be so easy to judge yourself if you did that. Because he probably was just like horny at the time.
Yeah.
Thinking with his...
But also like brain. How much... because you say Chinese whispers and stuff about how much of everything written there.
Oh,
you
fully.
know?
Yeah, we're just getting like the westernized version.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's some crazy stuff in the Bible that is, if you look back to early translations, you're just like, whoa, dude, that's pretty crazy. But I mean, the other one that I had an interesting thought on the other day was like, and I always struggled with it as well, because when Jesus came to the temple one time, there was a bunch of people out the front of the temple, and they were like selling sacrifices. So when you go to the temple, you make a sacrifice to God, and this is all part of the religious process at the time.
As in humans?
Oh no, like I think you could buy like a dove or a goat or because as was tradition at the time, And again, I think Jesus knew a little bit better than that. He was like, like we can do something a bit different than this, But he came in and was just like got real mad and flipped out, grabbed a whip and started flipping tables and being like, get the heck out of here. This is like the house of my Father. This is a space built for people to connect with God, a temple, could be a teepee or whatever, but if people start selling stuff out the front, it changes the context of what that structure is there for. And I could never unpack that in church. Because I was like, yeah, but you're not allowed to do anything that's bad. You can never, be violent or that kind of thing. But the motivation for Jesus doing that was pure. He was like, knew that, again, the Bible says that the love of money is the root of all evil.
Oh, so is that where that comes from?
Yeah.
Oh, that is like part of my money language.
Yeah, so there you go. So Jesus knew that like these people were just like loving money way harder than the symbolic representation of the temple. So
he then became the protector of the temple.
Yeah, he's like, get the heck out. Like, what are you all loving money for when you've got this, this... And I mean, again, that was just for me to understand that like it's okay to defend. It's okay to like speak your truth. It's okay to like, with pure intention or as best you can at the time. Protect things that are a reflection of source. We don't have to just surrender to every injustice that becomes us. We can actually step up and be like, oh, heck no. Like, I will defend, I will defend you because I see God in you. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's a hard thing. I'm still...
like, freedom of speech and...
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
Plant medicines. Get them legalized.
Yeah. Yeah. Happy Denver Day.
Denver Day.
Happy Denver Day. That's a cool segue back into plant medicine. What an interesting time that we live in.
Yeah, so good.
Just a little a marker for this moment in time today. I when I walked into Beck's house and I was like, Happy Denver Day. If you don't know what that is, psilocybin mushrooms were just legalized in Denver by an extremely close vote.
Yes.
And if you have judgment on that, jump on my Facebook. You can find me on Craig Bond. I posted a really neat little wide video that speaks to what the therapeutic benefits of that possibly is. But man, yeah, what an amazing time to see something that really does have therapeutic and medicinal benefits. I think that all of these things are tools.
Definitely.
Like
it's all tools.
It's all tools.
Mm-hmm.
And you can unpack it on a really meta level if you want to, and I think there's some validity to that. But even if you want to just go completely practical and just see it on a tool level, it's all about how you use it. The more power a tool has, the more careful you have to be, of how you use it. And that's where stuff like set and setting, or basically, intention, going to people that actually know what they're doing,
where, like, what state of mind you're in.
Yep, all this stuff. But it's very crazy to me that, I was talking about this with Beck earlier, but, flip into my Facebook feed and the first story is like Denver's legalized mushrooms, which are, literally the mycelial internet of all of nature. And so, if you want to look into that, maybe think that there's something to learn there, then that's cool.
And then under that.
And then the next one under is like, the UN, I think it's the UN's released this big data study of like the most comprehensive research on extinction. And it's like the most doomed the world has ever looked. So it's crazy because there's big changes happening for and against. You know, it's a wild time. I'm nervously excited, to be truthful. Maybe that's the the reckless Craig. Just be like, yeah, come on, let's see what happens.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, pretty regulated and...
Oh, of course.
Beautifully integrated. That's what I'm hoping for. Into...
I think it needs to be.
And more knowledge needs to be pumped out.
Powerful
for people
tool.
to know how to use them.
Yep. But it is interesting. I was thinking about that today. How many interesting stories started with, I found this big bag of mushrooms. Like you listen to like Paul Stamets or flipping even Ram Dass.
Yeah. I started really, really small.
Yeah, perfect.
Really small.
Perfect. Good. That's intelligent, But yeah, it's going to be an interesting time to see. Because I know that, the word psychedelic means mind opening. Psyche meaning mind and delia meaning open. So, I mean, that doesn't inherently mean good. It just literally means mind opening. So what you open your mind to is determined by a variety of factors. But to have something that is, mind opening, introduced into the public forum in a way where it's being seen as potentially beneficial, especially for people with trauma.
Yeah.
Especially for people with,
Well, like I was always fearful of trying any kind of psychedelic because I just thought they're going to show me the most horrific shit that ever happened to me over and over and over, and I wouldn't be able to escape.
Yeah.
But it's so not like that.
Yep.
Mushrooms, I find that they draw up things from the subconscious, and yes, they can be painful or uncomfortable, but it shows you them in a new way.
Yeah, okay.
For you to that's what I get.
No, I get it.
For me to understand better. Even good memories that I'd forgotten about with people that I don't associate with anymore. Or have like tarred them with a negative memory. They've shown me good things about them. I'm like, oh, what is that?
Yeah. I was like, I didn't want to see that.
Yeah, I forgot that was there.
Yeah.
And so much healing.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's crazy. Like, again, the way that they work is just wild. Connecting parts of your brain that don't talk to each other. We're going to talk about the ability to change the way that you perceive something. Start plugging one piece of your brain into another piece that doesn't usually talk to each other. It's very wild. So yeah, it's interesting. Go Denver. Optimistically, hopefully, done with the right attitude and with the right controls put in place, of course. Because all these things are tools, and you don't want a baby running around with a chainsaw. It's a rough time. So is that a bad metaphor?
Don't give anything to babies.
No, I mean, like if you're going to have a powerful tool, it wants to be in the hands of someone who knows how to use it.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a place for that. The world needs it.
Definitely.
And
it's only like if you're called to do it too.
Yeah, fully. But there's an interesting Albert Einstein quote. And he speaks about, and that's weird. There's been just so much stuff lately that's been just like full resurfacing of stuff that I was interested in a kid. When I was a kid, I was like super into Albert Einstein. And then lately I've just been like vibing real hard on like Einstein and stuff. But yeah, one of the things he says is you can't solve a problem on the level that it was created.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing to try to get your head around, because like a majority of the world's problems have been created on a certain level, and it actually requires a different level of thinking to start to solve them. I think not war, well, not making heaps of stuff.
Yeah.
Not producing, not the remnants of an industrial revolution that we're still sort of
plastic
dragging with us as we move forward as a society, but creativity. I think we're going to see I'm really hopeful that in the next few years, and it's already happening, but such an emphasis put on creativity, because it's creativity that solves problems. The world's got a bunch of problems at the moment, so develop a creative practice. Adults, kids especially, but I believe in that.
I think everyone's creative. We're all creative.
Fully.
All of us.
Yeah.
Just have to find the thing that you're passionate about,
yeah.
or that you enjoy at
yeah.
least.
Well,
even if you don't think it's good, other people do.
Fully. Yeah. Well, Fab posted the other day, and it was a real neat post about the creative adult is the child that survived. Because kids by nature are creative. And I think that's interesting as well. You see, there's kids at the forefront of movements that are starting to have an effect. It's kids that the kid that flippin' invented that device to start cleaning up all the oceans?
Oh yeah.
It's like 15.
Yeah.
He's obviously been raised in a school of thought where it's not just like mass and English. Sit in a row, speak when you're told. And so, yeah, I'm pretty excited for what's ahead, and contributing to that really fuels me. That's why I'm still passionate about, getting Grommies stoked.
Yeah.
Getting them doing backflip high fives, because then they're a bit fearless, and then they possess that alternative way of thinking that could potentially change the world. It's super exciting, because the world needs that. The world needs creative people. The world needs kids that are raised in environments where dancing is just as valuable as mathematics.
Yes.
Because then you are connected to creative expression. You're connected to...
And to know that they're valuable,
Yeah.
We're all valuable.
Yeah.
We can all make an impact.
We can. That's the trip, though.
Yeah.
Because when you're one little person, you feel like you can't sometimes. Because you're like, what can I do? But speaking about being community again, what we touched on before with the power of like doing stuff like a ocean meditation together. There is a power in individual togetherness amplifying each other.
Definitely.
If I get one little singing bowl and make it hum, might make one note, but if I get two, there'll be stuff going on that's like, like more than just two. So you get a whole bunch of, people together doing the same thing with the same intention can be powerful. And so that's your place in the world, show up, and if you want to, if you don't, cool.
Yeah.
But if you want to,
do your thing.
You can change the world.
Add your thing. Yeah.
Weirdly.
Well, how are you feeling? You want to wrap it up?
I don't know how we're doing for time.
It's 9:10.
Oh, Lord.
You ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
We can wrap it up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody out there that's in the interwebs land and listening to this super random conversation.
Thanks for listening and tuning in and staying with us. And going through all that.
It was good chats.
All those different topics. I think this has been really thought provoking.
Yeah. forgive me if it was a bit scattered. We did roll over a bunch of things. But yeah, hopefully there's some little ideas in there. There's definitely some ideas that maybe I spoke on that I'm still developing, and we'll see what comes when I'm back from New Zealand. And
yeah, I see a few seeds planted.
Yeah, the last year's been big for me, and so I'm still in some ways, I suppose, sort of processing and integrating and stuff. But yeah, life's good.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye.
If you guys are digging what I'm putting out, please go over to iTunes, give it a rate, review, and hit that subscribe button. And if you're interested in the music for the podcast, the intro was done by Sammy Bluebird, aka Tran Exista, and I'll put a link to his Bandcamp there. And the beautiful birds were captured by Glenn from 4D Empty, and I'll pop a link to where you can find those guys as well. You can find this podcast on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, various podcasting networks for Android phones, and my website www.bcpod.com.